Good morning everybody. So indeed, my name is Koen. I'm the Group CIO for Orange, and it's a pleasure to welcome you here in this, I think, nice campus, of which daily we have close to 3,000 people doing research, innovation projects, IT. So welcome here, and it's a pleasure to host also the OW2 organization. It's a long way that, and it's a long time already. I think it's more than close to 20 years that we're partnering and we're partnering or founding partner even of the foundation with the aim, and I think it's an extremely important one for us, and I particularly very fun and fan of open source, and not just because I like it, but because I think there's a real differentiator and a real game changer in the way we realize IT in the industry. And I think therefore it's also important that we have organizations like yours to do the promotion, because we don't have a whole army of sales and marketing people who do that for on bespoke systems and software, because if nobody talks about it, nobody promotes it, it gets unknown. We don't have armies of sales and marketing people doing that. So it's very important that we promote that we say what are the benefits, that we educate, because there's still a lot of miseducation about what the open source is and what is not. Many people think open source, okay, it's a for free thing and it's for the geeks. And that's sometimes a thing I hear with people who are not really in there. It's something, it's not very solid. It's very dangerous. You don't know really what is going on. And the reality is just the opposite. It's just the opposite, and that's also what I think it's absolutely key that we continue to promote it, that we continue to push it. And we need to do it in an active way, because we don't have external forces being sales and marketing people who do that and who do the lobbying with the business. So Orange uses open source in many cases. Not enough yet. I think there's still many opportunities where we can progress. And I always said open source should be our default choice. We shouldn't ask ourselves the questions, should I? But we should rather ask the questions, why shouldn't I? So I think the reflex of getting to open source as a first reflex, especially if it requires customization, if it's not just standard as a service usage we use, if the moment we need to heavy integration, heavy evolution, and potentially customization, I think open source is the only real alternative we should consider for different reasons. I think, first of all, we have the flexibility to adapt and avoid what I call the customization dilemma, that if you take off-the-shelf commercial software, we all know it. It has been constructed in a very generic way, covering multiple industries, therefore having a certain complexity. And of course, it doesn't do exactly what your marketing and salespeople wanted or your customer service reps wanted, so you start customizing it. Provoking the fact that you have deviations, that you need to upgrade. When you need to upgrade, you have to recustomize or redo your recustomizations again. So it's a vicious circle where you get into a huge cost for huge complexity and not mastering your destiny. The second part is that you're independent. If you're capable of maintaining yourself or through a partner, you have a certain level of independency, and you're not confronted with, I think what those who are in the IT industry, and I think you all are, have all lived, is that it's basically the vendors of the commercial software who determine at what time you have to do your upgrades. Even if you don't have any technical or business need, it's the software vendor who will determine whether you have to do an upgrade or not. And this becomes sometimes a quite important impact on your IT budget, that you're forced to do upgrades, although you don't have any real technical driver or real benefit, except from the fact that you need to be supported, especially in banking services. Well, you cannot afford, you're legally not allowed to, or regulatory wise not allowed to have not formally supported software. So I think that's it's a key other element. Quality, although many people think this is the kind of thing for the amateur geek in this back door garage. This is obviously not the case anymore. I think if you look at all the big techs, they're all founded on open source. They're not, they didn't buy all these commercial off-the-shelf softwares. So I think this is still a misunderstanding that is existing. The quality is definitely there. The scalability is there because it's made to be scalable in most of the cases. And of course also it's the security aspect. I think it's going to become an even more important element in the future. I would say, unfortunately, because I think we all know that cybersecurity will only or the cybersecurity risks will only increase rather than decrease. So the more we have insight in the code, the more the likelihood that we can avoid all kind of, I'll call them security features, hidden security features, are avoided. So I think this is absolutely another reason for adopting open source. Cost, obviously, and cost not only because of the license, because this is the first reflex a lot of people have is, okay, I don't need to pay. Let's take the open source version, the non-commercial one. I don't have to pay a license and it's for free. I think the indirect costs and the cost of not having to upgrade at a rhythm, having the capacity to just use what you need, the modularity, the openness is going to have, it has a much bigger impact than not just having, in case it's a free open source license, the non-payment of the license. We at Orange, we use it a lot, and I said when we really, and I want to make it really the default choice for Orange, open source by default and not by exception. This is happening because we are a big group, we have different business units. In many of our groups and many of our entities, this is the case today. So the people start to have the reflex. It doesn't happen by itself, it happens because there are teams helping the implementation teams to identify what open source solutions can be made available. I think it's a critical success for adopting open source in your organizations, and I think this is paying off. We see that in many cases where you were initially planning to use solution X or Y from a commercial off-the-shelf supplier towards an open source solution, which makes us save directly and indirectly a lot of costs. So I think it's also a key driver for innovation. I think if I said it in the beginning, if you look at where the open source, the big tech companies of today are based all on open source. They either contributed to it or invented it, and they're running on it. So I think it's a clear indication that innovation is a lot happening there. So we are committed as Orange to this movement, to this foundation, to help it not only within Orange but also within the industry. And we're actively contributing. We're not just consuming. I think that's another obligation that you have especially a bigger player like us, is that we also actively contribute, and we will do more so in the future, to actively contribute on creating open source ecosystems and contributing and leading them actively. We do have it on, I would say more even the gateways, where we have the Purple Foundation, where we are a founding member with Verizon on creating open source middleware for gateways. So this is very important for us, for Verizon and some other major, also American telcos. A major initiative to make sure that also what has been so far very proprietary compared to, I would say, the more classical, if I may say so, IT, the gateways, so the modems we put in the houses, they were very vertically integrated, which we, for a long time, we didn't do anymore in IT. It was still the case, it is still the case in many cases on the gateway business. There also we want to go for an open source to making sure that we have a sound and faster innovation of capability of also our home gateways. So we do it in different fields. We will also do it on the BSS part. so what we call the business support systems for those who are not in the IT, in the telecom industry, sorry, where we want to open source key components with other operators and other partners of developments we do for example, ordering product catalogs and things like that. So we are not just participating to conferences, we also are driving and creating and developing the ecosystem in a very concrete way, and we are committed to that. So thank you again for the work you're doing, and have a, I would say, very good seminar. Thank you.